Hello, beautiful people. Welcome to Vibe Fashion's YouTube channel. It's so good to have you here. My name is Eunice. In this video, we're going to be learning how to make this lovely gown. This gown is so good to rock and it's everything comfortable and elegant. This is what the sleeves looks like. It's a gathered sleeve. The neck is taped with bias. I used the plain fabric to create the bias, and you can see it has an extension that is extending as a rope and it has a slit in front. The down part is gathered from the knee area down to the hemline. The gown is so comfortable. It's a combination of plain and patterned fabric. Here I made a detailed video on how to make this gown step by step. I hope this is what you're interested in learning. Kindly stay tuned while we get right into the tutorial. If you're yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so. Thank you. So these are the fabrics I'll be using. This is a plain fabric. It's more like a chiffon, even though it's thicker than chiffon. And then I also have this thick fabric. It's also a thick chiffon, not the light chiffon. So this is the pattern fabric and this is the plain fabric I'll be using. The plain will be at the shoulder area, that's from the chest line upwards and then also from the knee downwards. So this pattern fabric or this black fabric will be the one from the chest down to the knee line. So here are the measurements that we need to achieve this gown. First, you need the shoulder measurement, and in this case, I'm using 16 inches, the bust measurement 39, the waist measurement which is 34, the hip measurement 42 inches. The full length of this gown is 60 inches. So here now, we need to get our armhole measurement, which is also known as the chest line. And to get that armhole measurement, you're going to say the bust divided by 6 plus 1.5, and that gave me 8 inches. So from shoulder to knee, the measurement I have is 41 inches. This is to let us know where this flower fabric will stop. And then I said the full length of the gown we are making is 60 inches. So for me to know the length I'm going to have at the down part of this gown, that's after this flower fabric, the length of this that I'll be having down, I'm going to subtract 60 minus 41, and that will give me 19 inches. So 19 inches will be the gathers that I will have down. That's the length of the gathers. And then of course I need half inch to join it to the upper part, and then hemming allowance. So that will be plus 2 inches. So that will give me 21 inches. So at this length, I'm looking for a length of 21 inches for this at the down part, which will serve as the gathers. And then I am also going to be getting a length of 8 plus 2 inches, because this fabric will stop 2 inches below the chest line on the upper part. So, and here we already have our chest line as 8 inches. So plus 2, that will give us 10 inches. And then we also need half inch to join it to the flowered fabric. So that will be 10.5. So that's 10.5. So we now have the ones for the plain fabric. So I'll just label this plain P. For the down part is 21. For the upper part, which is starting on the shoulder, P also is 10.5. So now the length for the flowered fabric is what we need to find out. So the length from the chest line, that's 2 inches below the chest line, to the knee line, that's, I will now say 41 minus these 10 inches that I have here, and that will leave me with 31 inches. So meaning that my pattern fabric, this flower fabric, will be 31 inches long. Then I also need sewing allowance I'll be using to join it to the upper part and the down part, and that will be half inch each. So that will now give me 32 inches in all. So I hope you understand the measurements we need. So to get started, I'm going to go ahead and fold my plain fabric and draft the upper part first. So I'll be drafting the upper bodies on my pattern paper so that I don't stain the fabric with my chalk. So here now I have my starting line, which will serve as the shoulder line. So I'll come in from this part. This is my center front. I'll be drafting both front and back together. So this is the center front. I'll come in by 3 inches, and then I'll mark half of the shoulder measurement plus half inch for joining our sleeve. So here I'll come down by 1 inch to create our shoulder slant. If you have been watching my videos, you should be used to this already. So now we have our shoulder slant. So next I'll come down by the armhole measurement of my client, which is 8 inches. And then I'll reconfirm my 8.5 that I have here, which is half of our shoulder measurement plus half inch for joining our sleeve. So now we have our armhole line, which is also the chest line. Next, I'll go ahead and enter quarter of her bust measurement. Quarter of her bust measurement is 9 3/4. In this case, I'll add 2 inches to this point. This is going to be my sewing allowance, 2 inches. So to get our armhole, to draw our armhole curve, I'll get the midpoint of the armhole here, and then I'll go in by half of an inch. I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip like this, and then curve it to meet the bust measurement here. You see? So this is our back armhole. So to draw the front armhole, remember I said I'm drawing for both front and back. So I'll mark my 3/4 of an inch. So here's our 3/4 of an inch here. Can you see? And then I'll connect it back to the shoulder tip like this. And then I'll also curve the armhole. So can you see? So now this is the back armhole and this is our front armhole. So I realized that our marker was not very clear. So this is our front armhole and this is the back armhole. So next I'm going to come down by the length I want my plain fabric to be. Remember we said we're looking for 10 inches. So I'm placing my tape from there and then plus half of an inch. So this is where this length will stop, 10.5. So I'm marking my 10.5. So I'll go ahead and rule a straight line. So this, my sewing allowance is included. That's the seam allowance for joining the up and down. So now on this line, I'm going to enter quarter of her bust measurement, which is 9 3/4, plus my 2 inches for sewing allowance. So you can see. So then next is to draw our neckline. Remember we're drafting for both front and back. So I'm using a neck width of 3 inches and then a neck depth of 1 inch for the back. So I'm just going to curve my neckline this way. Next, I'll mark the front neckline. I'm going to be using a neck depth of 4 inches for the front, and then of course the same neck width of 3 inches. So here we are. So it's that simple. We're done with the upper part. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut on the back first. So here, then I'll go ahead and take out my shoulder slant. Then I'll cut the back armhole first. Okay, so now we have our back piece. So I'll go ahead and place this on my fabric now and cut out exactly what I have here before we alter it to get our front piece. So I've cut out my back piece, as you can see. So this will serve as the back. So now we're going to alter this to achieve our front. So I changed my mind about the neckline. I'm going to be using a neck depth of same 3 inches, 3 by 3, because this neck I want it to be high. I'm going to be having a rope on the neckline and I'm going to have a tiny slit here. So I'm increasing the neckline to 3 inches. Remember I marked 4 inches before, so I'm just going to go up by 1 inch. So this is the neck depth I'm using of 3 inches. So now we have cut our front neckline, and then I'll also go ahead and cut the front armhole. After doing this now, I now have my front piece. So I'll place on my fabric and cut exactly how I cut the back too. I'll cut the front piece also. So I've equally cut out my front piece. You see? So and this is what I have in front. So like I earlier said, I'm going to be having a slit here in front. So I'm going to come down from the neckline here by same 3 inches. So here is my 3 inches. Then I'll create a tiny slit there. Just cut through it. So can you see that? So I'm going to have this opening here. So now the next thing we want to do is to cut the middle part. I'll start from the chest line area down to the knee line. So I'll fold over my fabric and shorts. So I folded over the fabric I'll be using to draft the down part or the middle part. And here to determine the amount of fabric to fold, I divided the hip, which is the biggest part of the down part, by 4 and I had 10.5. I went ahead to add 3 inches. I'll be adding 3 inches to this part because the middle part is really free. So I'm not going to add my regular 2 inches sewing allowance. I'll be adding 3 inches to this down part, unlike the front that I added 2 inches as usual. So here I have my starting line. You can see I also marked ½ inch. This is to indicate that this is my sewing allowance. That's the seam allowance I'll be using to join the up and the down. So placing my tape from here, remember that our upper part stopped at 10 inches. So placing my tape from this 10 inches, I'll mark her waistline, and her waistline is at 17. Her hip line is at 24.5 inches, and then next is the knee line. The knee line we're working with is at 41 inches. So our knee line is at 41 inches. So plus my ½ inch for joining the down part. So this is my ½ inch, which is my seam allowance. Can you see that? So now if we take our measurement from here to here, you can see I have a total of my 32 inches that we calculated before now. So now this is our waistline, this is the hip line, and then that's the knee line. On this part which is also part of the bust line, that is part of the upper part, I'm going to enter quarter of our bust measurement plus 2 inches at this point. Then on the waistline, I'll enter quarter of her waist measurement plus 3 inches. Remember I said we want that freeness around here. So here on the bust line is 2 inches, on the waistline is 3 inches. So on the hip line, quarter of our hip measurement plus 3 inches also. So what I have here in total, which is 13.5, is what I'll be taking down to the knee line. So here is my 13.5. So I'll use my straight ruler to connect my markings. So I'll connect to the waistline and then of course to the bust line. So we're done with this. So I'm just going to cut it out and place it on the fabric again and get the second part, because this is just one. So I need same thing for both front and back. So now that I have the middle part, so I'm just going to place it and cut exactly what I have, and that will serve as the back piece. I have successfully cut the second piece, which will serve as the back piece. So now the next thing we want to do is to cut the last step, which is going to be the gathers, the down part, before we go ahead and cut our sleeve. So to determine the amount of fabric you'll be using for your gathers, you go ahead and measure the hem here. So take note that I have the front is folded into two, the back is also folded into two. So I'm going to take the measurement I have here. Everything I have here is 13 13.5. Can you see? It's 13.5. 13.5 times 4. That will give me the total measurement I have here. Then we'll go ahead and multiply. So here we have 13.5 times 4. So that means the total I have here at the hem for both front and back is giving me 54 inches. So this 54 now, I'm going to multiply it by 2 or 2.5. I told you that it depends on the amount of fabric you have. So I'm going to be doing times 2.5. So I'll say 54 times 2.5. So that gave me 135 inches. So meaning that the width of the fabric I'll be gathering to this hem should be 135 inches. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out a fabric that is as long as 135 inches and then with a length of 21 inches. That's including my hemming allowance. Remember that the down part is supposed to be 19 inches plus half inch for joining it to this part. That gave us 19.5. Then plus my hemming allowance of 1.5 inches. So that gave us 21 inches. So I'll go ahead and cut that out and show us the next thing to do. So I've gone ahead to cut the fabric we'll be using for the down part. So my length is 21 inches and then I have my width of 135 inches. So we'll keep that aside now and then we'll go ahead and draft our sleeve. It's just a basic sleeve. So to draft our basic sleeve, I'm going to draw my starting line first. So from this starting line, I'll come down by her cap's height. So how do you get the cap's height? You're going to divide her bust by 12 plus half inch. That will give you her cap's height. That gave me 3 3/4. That's 3.75. So here is her cap's height. Next, I'm going to go ahead and mark the elbow line from the starting point of the sleeve to the elbow line, and then this is the full length of the sleeve. Here I have 20 inches. This sleeve is going to be about 22 inches, so I'll show us how to extend it. My paper is not that long. So I haven't done that. Now on the cap side here, I'm just going to mark this way. I'm going to draw my line here. So from the cap side to this point. So can you see that? So I'll go ahead and enter her armhole measurement, which is this is the armhole measurement. That's 8 inches. So this line, this slanted line I have should stop at this 8 inches mark here. You see? So now I'll get the midpoint of this line, this slanted line now. So as it is a slanted line, of course it became longer. So I'll fold my tape into two like this to get the midpoint. Once I have that midpoint, I'll get the midpoint of the upper part, and this is the midpoint, the down part. So here is up and then here is down. So to get the midpoint of the down part, I still need to fold my tape into two like this, and then I'll bring the same midpoint here. So you can see I have the midpoint of the upper part and the midpoint of the down part. So at this upper part, I'll go up by half of an inch. And then at this down part, which is the midpoint of the down part, I'll also go down by half of an inch. So I'll bring in my armhole curve like this. Can you see what I'm doing? I want this point, and this point to meet. Can you see? So then I want this point, and this point to meet. So I'll turn my armhole curve over like this. Remember that when I was doing this, I placed it like this. So now I'm doing this side, I'm turning it over like this. So can you see that this point is their point of intersection? So having achieved that now, I'll come down and enter the upper round arm measurement. And to get the upper round arm, just come down by 2 inches. So and her upper round arm is 13 inches. 13 divided by 2, that will give us 6.5. Our elbow measurement is 11 inches. 11 divided by 2, that will also give us 5.5. And then here, what I have here is 4 inches. That's 8 inches in all. So I'm just going to go ahead and connect it like this. So you can see I've not talked about sewing allowance. So I'm going to go ahead now and add my sewing allowance. I'm going to be adding a sewing allowance of 2 inches. But remember that this sleeve has gathers. So basically what I'm doing is just my basic sleeve first. Then I'll show us how to achieve that gathers that we are looking for. So here now we have our basic sleeve. So we'll go ahead and cut it out like this. So now we have our basic sleeve. So remember I said that this sleeve has gathers. So I need to increase it to be able to get the amount of fabric to be able to gather. So I'll show us that now. We have our basic sleeve, and with this basic sleeve we cannot achieve the gathers that we saw on the thumbnail. That's the dress we are trying to make. So now you can see this is my basic sleeve, and I've placed my fabric on fold. I'll be using the plain fabric for the sleeve. So this is what we're going to do. Can you see? I folded this sleeve. Can you see where this stops? I want to have this excess around here so that I'll be able to gather, and I want to have about 4 inches. Can you see? So once I have about 4 inches in all, that will be 8 inches because it is open. Let me increase it to 5 inches. So I want to have 5 inches here so that the sleeve can gather well. So you can see I have 5 inches here. So can you see that I have an excess here? So I'm just going to bring my paper down like this and then connect this point like this. So more of the gathering, I'll have the gathering more around this side. I want to gather the upper side of the sleeve to the armhole. Can you see? So you can see what I have here. So I'm just going to take it down. But remember I said that this sleeve length, I have 20 inches, that I'm looking for a sleeve length of 22 inches. So I'm going to place my tape like this and add my 2 inches. So here is our sleeve length. Then I'll add half inch for turning the sleeve, because this sleeve is going to have like a small bias that we use to turn it up. So that's 22.5 now. You see? So we'll go ahead and cut it out. So can you see now that we have our sleeve? So I'll be able to form my gathers and give it that full length, and also form the gathers here. I'm going to place and cut the second one and show us what to do next. So for the front, I went ahead to cut the facing I'll be using to turn this V shape I have here. That's to turn this opening I have here, this slit I have here. So I also traced out the neckline. So I'm going to be weaving this side. So now to create the bias, that's the long rope that we have in front that we use, that they tied in front of the dress. So you're going to take your measurement, the measurement of the neckline. So this is the back neckline. It's open. I'm measuring it open. I have 8 inches. So for the front now, you also measure it. I'm measuring the front on fold. This is giving me 5.5 inches, so that's 11. 11 plus 8 inches, that's 19 inches. I'm going to be making this rope. Right now I have 19 inches in all. I'm going to be making this rope about 32 inches long, so that we can knot it in front. Or I'll make it 30 inches long so that we can knot it in front. And the width of this rope is going to be half inch when I am done folding. So as it is that we want to cut this bias, I'm going to be cutting 2 inches on 1 inch on fold. That's when we open it to be 2 inches on fold. So I'm just going to show us how to cut it now. fabric, my leftover fabric. To cut your bias, you cannot place your fabric straight. You have to place it on bias. Can you see? This is my leftover fabric. I'm going to be placing on bias. So you're going to place in a triangular form. Can you see what I'm doing? So can you see that it's stretching now this way? But if it is this way, can you see it's not stretching as much as it should stretch? This fabric is already stretched, that's why it's like this. But whenever you are cutting anything on bias, please place your fabric in a triangular way like this. So I'm just going to fold it over like this. Can you see? So it has a way of wasting fabric, but it is what gives you what you are looking for. So as you can see, I've placed my fabric on fold and I've marked my 1 inch. So remember that is on fold. So by the time I open, I'll have 2 inches. So and also I've marked the length I want to have. So now I'll go ahead and cut out our bias. So now we have the bias that we'll be using for our neckline. So once I open it, you can see it's 2 inches. So the next thing I'm going to go ahead and do now is to fold it this way. So already I have my crease line that is showing that this is the center. So I'm going to fold it 1/2 inch and bring it to this center here. And then I'll fold this part too to bring it here like this, and then fold it into two like this. So I'm going to press it and I'll also cut the same strip. This is the same thing I'll be using for the wrist area. So I'll cut two of them. That wrist area is going to be 9 inches. 9 inches long, and then exactly what I have here, but 9 inches long, I'll be using for both sleeves. So I'll cut two of them 9 inches each and show us the next thing to do. So I've successfully made my bias. So this will be for the sleeves. I can always cut out my excess, and this will be for the neckline. So now for the sewing part, I've also gone ahead to sew my facing, right side of the facing, facing the right side of the fabric. Can you see? So you want to notch it deep because this is a sharp, and you want to be very careful so that you don't cut your thread or cut through your stitch. So can you see? So now flip it to the wrong side like this and give it a very nice press. So I'll press it so that it can relax, and then I'll show us what we have. My facing, this is what I have. So I'm going to go ahead now and use my hemming gum to gum the facing down so that it's not sticking out now. So next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to be joining the shoulders together. So I'm going to join right side facing right side. Can you see that? So I'll join the shoulders together, and then I'll show us how to sew our bias to the neckline. I've joined the down part as the flower fabric. You see, and I've also joined my sleeve. So you can see I just did some small gathers and then I joined it to the armhole, and then I went ahead to weave it. I used a contrasting thread so that I can remove it for us to see it. I'll be removing this thread later on. See, this is my original stitch. Can you see? So from looking at it from outside, you see that this my original stitch is inside. So I'll be taking out the gather stitch. So here, you can see our dress is already coming out. So to show us how to create the bias and then form our rope on the neckline, I'm going to fold this into two like this. You see, once I fold into two like this, I'm going to open it so that I can notch where the center is. So let me fold it over again like this. We want to make sure that they are equal. So once I have this point, I can now open it like this and notch this point just a little. Okay, so I'll notch this point, and then here I have my center back. I've also notched the center back. So this is what I'll be doing. I'll take my bias, place it from the wrong side, like this. You see, I'm going to pin it. Take note of what I'm doing. My bias, can you see that I opened it up? I opened it up so I can see my crease line. Can you see? I opened one side of it up. So you can see this side is still folded and the other side is open. So I'm pinning on the crease line that I formed. That's that my iron created, right? I'm going to just pin it. And so you can see the extension of my rope here. So I'll also pin the other side and then show us the next thing to do. So now that I've done this, I've pinned it. Can you see? I've pinned it to this side. So I'm going to make sure to sew on this crease line now. So I'm going to sew now and show us. Can you see that I'm done sewing it? So take note that it's on the wrong side. So now I'm going to flip it over like this. Can you see? So to flip it over like this, can you see that this part is open? So before that, I'll place this like this, right side facing right side of my bias, like this, and then I'll stitch it down. Stitch it down. So I've done that. So now I can now cut out my excess. So and then I'll turn it to the right side like this. So can you see that this place is neatly taken care of? So I'll repeat the same thing for this other extension and then I'll show us how to top stitch our bias. So I've repeated the same thing for the other side. So you just want to make sure that you push in your excess inside like this. So now this is the right side here. So I want to use this to cover up this. So I'm using the other side of my bias now to cover up this. So you want to just pin it down. So pinning it will keep everything in place to secure it, and then you will not have any issues of any point shifting here and there. So as you can see, and this part, I'm supposed to top stitch them. I'm going to be top stitching them on top of each other like this rope side. So I'm just going to pin everything down and then we'll sew it. So after pinning now, I'm going to start sewing from this side now. So I want to make sure. So I'm done sewing it. Can you see? So just take a cut out my excess thread. So I'll take this to my ironing table and press it so that it gives it that relaxed look. So you can see how our rope comes out here, and this is what we can achieve with it. So I'll be also fixing my bias also just the same way I did for the neckline. I'll be repeating the same thing on the sleeve, but of course the sleeve does not have any extension. So I'm just going to repeat the same thing. Our sleeve. And you see I fixed the bias for this side. I'll be removing this thread. I'll be removing it. So I'll just pull it out. Can you see? I'm going to remove it and I'll press it. So to do this side now, let me show us. Just like I did for the neckline, I will place my bias on the wrong side. This is the wrong side of the fabric. So I'll open the bias tape and then place it like this. I'm going to sew it all the way to this side. I'll be sewing on the crease line that I opened. You want to make sure that you arrange your gathers very well and then let it be the same with what I have here. So can you see? So now after doing that, can you see this is the wrong side. This is what I have on the wrong side. After doing that, I'm going to flip it over like this, easy, easy, like this, and then I'll top stitch it. Okay. Can you see what we have? So now take out my gather stitch. So I've closed up my sides, that's I've shaped the side. I sewed on 1 inch. Remember, I added a sewing allowance of 2 inches on the bust area, 3 inches on the hip and the waist. So I sewed on 1 inch. I sewed it all the way down. So this is what I have. So now I'll be attaching my gathers to this part. Remember that when we measured 54 inches. So let's measure that. After shaping now, let me see what I have left, because that was including my sewing allowance. So you can see that after shaping on 1 inch, of course that's for the round, so you can see I have 25 inches, which is 50 inches. So I've lost 4 inches to my shaping round. So now I'll make sure that these gathers that I have here is 52 inches, because I'll be using 1 inch to join them, that's to sew the gathers together like this. Okay, so you can see I've done my gathers. I also use a contrasting thread so that we can see it and so that I can pin it. And then also I've hemmed the down part. So now what I'll be doing is this. So since my gathers is just one piece of fabric, I would like to align the stitch with the side seam here, since I don't have a zip allowance at the back. So now I'll place this like this. I'm going to come this way now. Right side of the gathers facing right side of my fabric. So I'll leave 1 inch here, which is going to be for my sewing allowance. Remember I said that it's going to be 52 inches, right? So that when I finish sewing, I'll use my 1 inch as my sewing allowance. I'm going to now pin this here like this. I've sewn my gathers to the hem, and I've also gone ahead to weave it. So now this is what I have on the right side, you see. And like I said, I made sure that the side seam lines are lined here. So now I'll go ahead and remove these gathers stitches, then I'll give it a good press and then
Yeah,
wear it on
here
the
we
mannequin so
are.
that we'll
Can you
see
see
what
how
we have.
beautiful our gown came out? It turned out so, so beautiful. You see how the sleeves are sitting really pretty. The gathers, the bias neatly taped around the sleeve. The neckline is sitting well with the rope. You can see the gathers at the down part. You see, everything came out really beautiful. I hope you enjoyed every bit of this video. If you did, please like this video, share this video with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel and also put on your notification bell so that you get notified once I post a new video. Thank you for watching. See you in my next one. Bye.